enduring hardships, the tears of pain I shed today will be the tears of joy I shed tomorrow. I'm Coach mjdtiger, certified life coach and mentor, and we are on this journey together to find peace, passion, and purpose by enduring hardships and not getting knocked down and staying there, but to rise and to be more than we were the moment before and to grow in the next moment. And we can do that by focusing on our self-love, self-respect, self-control, and to bravely and boldly embrace who we are unconditionally. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up. How are you feeling? How are you feeling in your mind? How are you feeling in your body? How are you feeling in your heart? How are you feeling in your soul? Taking a moment each day to think in silence and to address each of these areas is a daily healthy practice that will lead you to your passion and your purpose and to balance you out every single day. When we ask ourselves through mind, body, heart, and soul how we are feeling, we get the answers we need and we know we need to focus on. How are you feeling? Trust yourself. Trust that you have it within you to get through the next moment. Trust that whatever is beyond your control, whatever is beyond the reach and the scale of where your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul can endure in this moment, trust that what's beyond you doesn't matter. What's behind you doesn't matter. What matters is this moment. Trust that you are strong enough to endure the next moment, the next obstacle, the next test, the next mountain, the next volcano. Trust yourself that you are making the right decisions and that you will stand tall and bravely and boldly endure the consequences of those decisions. Trust yourself that you are more than what your limited beliefs are telling you. Trust yourself that you are capable of being in a loving, healthy, non-toxic relationship. Trust yourself that you are everything you know you were born to be. Trust yourself that you will go further than you ever imagined through discipline, self-love, and self-control. You are here now. Trust yourself. Episode 15, Wheat Horizons. On June 8th, 2020, I began the very first podcast of the phase 2 process. It began with the color wave red, and that was podcast number 101, I believe. And each phase I wanted to do 100 podcasts. So this is the 200th podcast that I've done officially. I've done more podcasts, but under the Brave Never Fall phases, those are the what I call the official ones, and this is 200, and it was always designed to get to this point. A whole nother year was added on. 2 years. I wanted to do phase 2 in 1 year, but a lot of things happened since 2020, as we all know, and 2 years later, I'll take it. But here we are, Wheat Horizons. The whole journey up until this point with essentially phase 1 was an extended version of the valley. And half of phase 2 was the mountains, and maybe a little bit more than half of phase 2 was the mountains, and then the volcano was the latter half of phase 2. And then I wanted to kind of briefly get right back into the valley. And these things are meant for you to go back and start all over again. If you want to start the journey from day 1 again and start the journey again, they were all designed this way. None of these podcasts were not planned. Every single one of these podcasts were planned and put in the order that they were for a reason, especially in phase 2. They were a little more random in phase 1, but it was one topic. And this one, in phase 2, every single podcast, all 100 of them, were planned out in advance. Nearly every title was planned out in advance. The colors, the titles, all of them. So when I got to Wheat Horizons, I wanted to tip the hat to one of my favorite films of all time, and that's Gladiator. It's my third favorite film ever. And my mind always goes to what my favorite images are in the film, which is Maximus walking with his hand stroking on the wheat, just kind of lightly, gently filtering over the wheat as he walks through the wheat field. And it happens twice in the movie. I won't spoil the movie for you if you haven't seen Gladiator. What are you waiting for? Go see Gladiator. You have to see this movie. You want to talk about all the things that Brave Never Fall is about is in this film. One of my favorite characters of all time, Maximus Decimus Meridius. Amazing character. And that wheat always stuck with me, and I never understood in my mind why it did. And let's talk about what wheat actually means. The symbolism of it is fertility, it's bounty, resurrection, productivity, growth, prosperity, immortality, abundance. Those are just a few things that wheat symbolizes. And for me, to just think of it in the field in the terms of a valley, and you have a valley full of wheat, and the sky is not clear, it's overcast. The sun is peeking through the clouds. You have these shadows that are filtering over the wheat field, and you can close your eyes and you can feel the breeze of the wind coming off of the mountains you just left and the mountains that are ahead of you. And the reason why the sky is a little overcast is because that volcano is in the far distance, and some of that smoke is causing a little bit of a storm. It's all designed to come together to symbolize what really the word that sticks out to me is growth. To me, the word wheat symbolizes for me how I always interpreted it was growth and productivity and prosperity, abundance, resurrection, to start again. The mistakes we made in the past no longer have any meaning here unless we make that meaning something positive. We can reflect on where we've been, all the things we've been through. Again, look at all the things you've been through. When I just talked about the last 2 years, let's focus on that. The last 2 years of our lives, going through the pandemic. If you're listening to this, you went through it, right? The whole world went through the aftermath. We're still in the wake of that. There's been so many things around the world as far as news go, where we can go now, where we can't go, restrictions, vaccinations. that's just surrounded one issue. Then there's all the other issues, the price of living going up, gas prices going up, car car expenses going up, your house expenses going up, childcare going up, healthcare going up. Everything in this world can be looked at as, wow, what a struggle, darkness. And the important part of that is that with any darkness, we always know, again, which is why I like the symbolism of being in a wheat field, but it's not sunny above you. You look up and it's overcast. The sun is trying to peek through, and it's blocked by the mountains. It's blocked partially by the volcano and the smoke coming from that volcano, which is causing some storms. But what do we know? We know once we start moving, we will hit a pocket where those clouds will break, and that sunlight is going to pierce through. Just like in the movie Gladiator. What I loved about that is that you see the shadows. There's another thing about that movie that I love is that the clouds move a lot in that film, and you constantly see the characters be shrouded in shadow and overcast, and all of a sudden the light would just peer on them out of nowhere, and it just you could see above where the clouds are. The sun is peeking through the clouds, and you see these shafts of light. All of that symbolizes to me just life being very organic and fluid, but we always know one thing: no matter how dark it is outside, that sun is always out there. And the wheat couldn't grow unless it was. So even though we may not be able to see the sun, we can tell by the wheat that sun is providing the warmth and the vitamins and the nutrients and the sunlight photosynthesis for that wheat to grow. Even though when we look up, we see dark clouds, maybe even a storm. But it's not there long enough to make the weeds, well, the weeds, probably the most resilient thing on this planet are weeds. I can just go on a tangent right there. There's a quote that I like where they say that in Tao, they say that people love flowers, but they die and fall to the ground. People hate weeds, yet they continue to grow and are one of the most resilient plants on the planet. So yeah, the sun is feeding the things that we don't even particularly like, which are weeds. And the sun can kill the things that we think are beautiful, which are roses, which are some of the most delicate plants on the planet. There's roses, but the most beautiful, but they have thorns. Or, this is why I love life, because everything is just not always what it seems, yet it all seems to fit together just how it seems it should. And that is why I gravitated towards wheat, because not only that, it's the color. Very unassuming. There's nothing special about it, but you look at it and it just feels like there's something regal and powerful about it. Something that is very symbolic, which is why so many companies around this world use wheat as marketing tools. And you see wheat is one of the most recognizable things on this planet. And it is for a reason. For some reason, we all identify with it. And it's, it not only that, but, we can eat it. We can grow it. We can sell it. We can do all. It is a very resilient thing. But we also can just, again, like Maximus did in Gladiator, we can just put our hands on the wheat and enjoy it. It just satisfies all the senses. And when we're in a reflection state, those are the things that need to be stimulated. All of the senses, all of who we are have to be stimulated for us to truly understand and appreciate who we are, where we're at, what we have, not to devalue anything, not to jettison people, places, and things that we aren't for sure need to be jettisoned. I've always said this, and this is the perfect time to mention it when we're talking about embarking back on the journey back over your new mountains and volcanoes, is that if you're going to jettison things, you don't do it on a whim. It has to be something that you feel in your heart is going to go, because it is unessential and it no longer serves you positively, and it never will again. It may swing back around and surprise you, but the odds are, deep inside of yourself, you can trust yourself that you can't trust it to come around again positively. If it swings around again, it most likely will be negative. But because we see things as glass half full, that's why I give the analogy: if you jettison someone, you're not toss them off the plane, but you don't toss them off without a parachute. You allow them to land safely because you care about them enough. You forgive them enough or whatever they've done to not allow them to be gone forever. You give them the opportunity to learn a lesson or to show you that you have boundaries. And that's not just people. Those are things and places as well. We can jettison addictions. We can jettison toxic places that we have no business going to anymore because they trigger us. We can jettison anything. And the time to do that is not when you're on your path, on your trek, on your journey, figuring everything out as you go, because we're going to have things to figure out. If we can jettison some of those unessential things before we even get started, that's what we want to do. That's what Weed Horizon is all about. It's that resurrection of who you are, the birth of a new you, the phoenix rising from the ashes, so to speak. And you have to be brave to do this. You have to be bold to do this. This takes initiative. This takes determination. This takes discipline. This takes every single bit of who you are, good, bad, and ugly, and saying, it's me. It's us. Whoever's alongside you, you're doing it together. I can't stress this enough. When you can find people that are around you that support you and lift you up and make you feel better as a person, you won't know that until those people are gone. And when we go on this journey, we're not guaranteed that they're going to be with us, whether it's their choice, our choice, or nature's choice. Again, this is why my whole point of this phase of wheat horizons is that when you look at the horizon of wheat and you see beyond that the mountain and that volcano, it's time to start looking around and saying, I'm very grateful and satisfied with who I am and where I am and what I have. If it's time for me to release certain people, places, and things, this is the time to do it. But I have to be damn sure this is what I want. This is who I want. This is where I want to be. These things, they are essential for me. And whatever we're left with, that's what we're going to use. That's who we're going to have by our side. That's our destination. And even though we can have an abundance of these things, we don't necessarily need so much where we're toppling over. We don't need 50,000 friends. We don't need $500,000 coming into our bank account every single month. We don't have to have 5-6 different houses, cars. What we need is to have the strength to be able to get through another day without all that, if need be. And that is the part I talked about Tim Ferriss in the previous podcast. And again, I'm bringing him up again. I recommend his book, Tools of Titans. He talks about preparing yourself, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, preparing yourself for the journey, not giving yourself unrealistic expectations, focusing on the track, past the point of no return. All of these things, these are previous podcasts I encourage you to listen to before you finish up the series here in podcast 200. But Tim Ferriss says that he specifically will endure things that he would never, ever envision having to go through, but he wants to prepare himself mentally, physically, emotionally to go through some of these things. So he'll take, even though he's a millionaire, he doesn't have to do this. This is a best-selling author. This is a guy who's well-known around the world. He'll sleep in a sleeping bag on his floor randomly for a week, once a month. He'll fast for 3 or 4 days a few times a month, just so he can simulate hunger. The sleeping on a sleeping bag is is him getting out of the comfort of his nice, comfy bed and reminding himself of what the hard floor feels like. And he'll do things like that. He'll prepare himself with trying to do things that are not in his normal daily lifestyle, because he knows that all that can go away, and he wants to be prepared in case anything happens in this world. If he loses all his friends, if he loses all his money, if he loses all his assets, he's fine with going hungry and sleeping on the ground because he's already done it. Keanu Reeves says something interesting. Keanu Reeves lives out of his suitcase in hotels and just travels around the world. He could care less about money. He says he gives away more money than he actually cares to have in his account. He lives out of his suitcases. These are his words. These are people that I admire and respect, because these people simply understand the true meaning of life. Which, yes, we can strive to have all these things and we can have them in abundance, but we cannot stop our growth. And that's what Wheat Horizons was all about. It was about appreciating the abundance of everything that's good and positive in our life, but still being able to grow as our individual selves, void of all that shit that we don't need. The toxic people in our lives that are just sucking us, the life out of us like vampires. We have to do better than that. And in order to get to where we need to go, we can only have people around us that are as abundant as we are, but not when it comes to material things and money and resources and all these fake relationships. What's important is that we have real relationships with people that are truly family to us, even if they're not our blood. The people who we are obligated to be role models for. The people that totally understand that in living through purpose, we can do that without a single dime. If you need money to fulfill your purpose, if you have to live on the beach to fulfill your purpose, if you have to be in love with the woman or the man of your dreams to fulfill your purpose, you're probably missing a part of your purpose, because a lot of us, our purpose is much simpler than what we would care to admit. We don't need a grand purpose. There are people that put that pressure on us by saying, hey, that can't be your purpose because that's not big enough. I've had people say this to me. People that are my own family members have said this to me. Your purpose is bigger than that. Why aren't you doing more? And I'm thinking to myself, because I'm me, why aren't you doing more? If you want more, do it yourself. If someone else's purpose is the size of a mountain, someone else's purpose might be the size of a rock. A small rock that fits in the palm of their hand. Who's to say that each purpose is equal? It may be much simpler than what we're trying to get in life. Again, we want the perfect relationship. We want the perfect place. We want the perfect things in our lives. But how can we ask for all those perfect things when we're perfectly imperfect individuals, where we haven't even perfected our own lives and never will? But we want everything in our life that's not us to be perfect. You can't have a perfect relationship. It doesn't exist. You can't have a perfect material thing. It doesn't exist. And you certainly can't have a perfect place. It does not exist. It will never exist because we would know if it existed to begin with, because we have no idea what perfect even looks like as a human being. We know we can estimate and guesstimate that, hey, my idea of perfection would be this, but who's to say that that isn't just 20% of what could be on top of that perfection you call perfection? Could be much more than that. That's why we should just concentrate on who we are. Wheat Horizons was a giant mirror to reflect that. Colorwave White was a giant mirror to reflect that, coming off Black, Colorwave Black, where we talked about the affirmations of who you are. Now we get to, walk away from that mirror and say, it's time to go. It's time to stop talking and start doing. I can see what I have to do. It's time to start walking towards it and making things happen in my life. I've stood here long enough. I've been on the ground without standing up and being brave long enough. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance. Through enduring hardships, the tears of pain I shed today will be the tears of joy I shed tomorrow. That's what the brave never fall is all about. We're about growth, ascending, rising, accepting the challenges, the obstacles, the resistance that is coming our way. We accept it and we face it and we overcome it by any means necessary, even if that any means necessary means failing 1,000 times. When we look down, our feet keep moving. If we do need to stop, we are recharging the batteries. We're not giving up. We're just getting stronger. We are looking at the people around us and saying, this person is valuable. I'm not ever leaving this person because this person will never leave me. This person I love unconditionally because this person loves me unconditionally. This thing in my life serves me as a tool that aids in my purpose. This thing doesn't, I gotta jettison it. This place I go to, every time I go to it, it gives me PTSD and it triggers me, so I'm not going there anymore. But over here, this is a beautiful place. This is a place where I feel at peace. I'm gonna visit this place more often. It's just that simple. Those are the things that we should be looking at and identifying with every single day, because that is why we are here. We are here to figure out what can we do each day to maintain our happiness for ourselves so we can be very, very pleasant, joyful, purposeful, happy people for those around us that we want to see happy for them. We want to show up for them as the best, happiest version of ourselves possible. The most positive, inspirational person we can be for these people, because they deserve it from us and we deserve it from them. They have invested in us, so we must invest in them. It is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And you do it with discipline. You don't do it when it's convenient. You don't do it because it makes you feel good. You don't shit all over someone because all of a sudden today you feel like you have the perfect excuse to do it. That's not how life works. Consistency. Mind, body, heart, soul. Look forward. What do you see ahead of you? Are the people, places, and things in your life actually serving you, or are you just hoping that they do? Are you turning your backs on the people that have always been there for you? Are you treating them like crap because you're angry with yourself because you haven't stepped forward? But guess what? What are you waiting for? Step forward. That's what this whole thing is about. We the Horizons is about a no excuse zone for you to man or woman up, move forward and say, despite what's happening around me, I may have absolutely nothing, and I'm still going to take that first step forward onto this trek, this path, this journey. I don't give a damn what's in front of me. I'm going, and I'm going to succeed, because that is what I was born to do. If we believe we were born here for a reason and a purpose, then how can we get down on ourselves every day? All we have to do is remind ourselves of that. I remind myself of that every single time I press record for one of these podcasts. I'm living in my purpose. It's what gets me through each day. It's what I was born to do. And I don't need a single dime. I don't need a single vehicle or a place or anything in this world to do that. I can walk up to anyone and help them just by opening my mouth. And if that is someone's purpose, that is someone's purpose. That is my version of it. Each individual on this planet has that same version. And believe it or not, we're all living it without even knowing it most of the time. You are already living your purpose. You're just not acknowledging it. You're not answering the call to it. And until you do, you'll be standing still. But I believe in you. You're about to move forward. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up. and thank you.